So what if these stories, these really outlandish stories about our past and, well, even our present, what if they aren't just, myths?
Right, like maybe they're actually pieces of a history that someone deliberately tried to hide.
Exactly. And what you think you know about, say, ancient civilizations or even current global events,
Yeah.
maybe that's just scratching the surface, just the tip of a much deeper kind of astonishing truth.
Well, today, that's what we're diving into. We've got this really extraordinary collection of sources you've shared with us, everything from uh, military testimonies, archaeological finds, ancient texts.
And modern scientific insights, too. It's quite a mix.
It really is.
And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to try and pull out the most important nuggets from all this, connect some dots that maybe seem totally separate.
Yeah, and shine a light on what these sources seem to be pointing towards this hidden narrative. You know, giants, really advanced tech, a world that's just far more complex than we've been told.
So we'll guide you through this stuff, this fascinating material, help you kind of grasp the implications of these claims.
And hopefully get you asking your own questions about, well, the reality we think we live in.
Okay, so where do we start? There's so much here.
Let's kick off with something really startling. It comes from military testimony out of Afghanistan. Our sources detail this account from a shooter, as they call them, in Kandahar province.
Oh?
He encountered what he described as a, quote, living nightmare. Basically, a bipedal creature standing somewhere between 12 and 15 feet tall.
12 to 15 feet, wow.
And the witness was apparently pretty insistent it was closer to 15 feet.
That's hard to even picture. And the description, did they get a good look?
Yeah. Reddish skin or hair, barefoot, wearing some kind of loincloth, and carrying a lance and a shield.
Okay, almost biblical sounding in a way?
Well, wait till you hear this.
Yeah.
The sources really highlight this part. It had 6 fingers.
Licks, fingers.
But it get this double rows of teeth.
Okay, that's deeply strange. 6 fingers, double teeth, and how did it move? Something that big, you'd think it'd be clumsy.
Apparently not. The source says it moved with incredible agility and speed, like a professional NFL linebacker, despite being absolutely massive.
That's terrifying, just the combination of size and speed.
It is, and tragically, during the encounter, one of the soldiers, a guy named Dan, he was actually impaled by the giant's lance, died right there.
Oh, man. That's awful.
Yeah. The shooter also described this overwhelming stench coming off it, like skunk mixed with dead bodies. Really foul.
So they engaged it. They shot at it.
They did. It took multiple bullet wounds to finally bring it down. They apparently basically had to blast off its lower face.
Jeez.
But here's maybe the most mind-bending part. They observed its wounds. They seemed to be healing right there as they watched.
Healing, like regenerating, instantly.
That's what the account suggests, this rapid, spontaneous regeneration, something, way beyond what we understand.
That detail alone, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What could even do that?
Exactly. The sources suggest it points to something just extraordinary. And maybe that's why some sources mention Special Forces generals advising that if you encounter these things, you have to go for beheading.
Like David and Goliath.
Precisely. Because of this potential regeneration.
Wow. Okay, so they bring this creature down, then what?
Then the cover-up kicks in. According to the sources, the creature was scooped up, cargo-netted by a huge chopper, whisked away.
And the soldiers?
The whole team was ordered point-blank to rewrite their after-action reports. Eliminate any mention of the giant. Just gone from the official record.
Just like that. Wow. And you mentioned this wasn't isolated.
No. We found another account. This one's unvetted, so, take it with a grain of salt. That's compelling. From Iraq. A survey team supposedly ran into a group of giants.
A group?
Yeah, and their bodies were apparently immune to small arms fire. The soldiers just had to flee, couldn't stop them.
Immune to bullets. That fits with the regeneration idea, maybe.
It could. And it also makes you wonder about another little detail. Sources mention Marines in Kandahar getting this weird aim-high training for cave fighting.
Aim high.
Yeah, like aim way above where a normal person's head would be. Suggests someone knew they might encounter targets significantly taller than average, right?
It implies an awareness, definitely, an unspoken knowledge.
And importantly, the sources analyzing these accounts concluded that the Kandahar giant and another one referenced as the pilot's giant, these were separate incidents.
So not just one rogue creature, potentially more of them out there.
That's the implication.
These modern accounts are just staggering. But, as we look through the sources, it felt like these weren't entirely new ideas. There are echoes in ancient history, aren't there? especially looking at some of those massive stone structures.
Absolutely. If you take these modern encounters seriously, it forces you to look back at history differently. Let's shift focus to Peru for a minute.
Okay. The megalithic sites.
Exactly. Places like Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, Machu Picchu, Coricancha, even the foundations of Cusco itself.
I mean, the pictures are incredible, but the scale. The sources talk about 120-ton stones cut into these complex polygonal shapes that fit together perfectly. No mortar.
And carved out of andesite, which is seriously hard stuff, like a 7 on the Mohs scale where diamond is a 10.
So the big question is, how? How did ancient people, supposedly with just primitive tools, quarry these massive blocks, move them miles, sometimes uphill, and then fit them with such insane precision?
It's a question that, frankly, modern engineering struggles to answer, even with our technology, let alone Bronze Age tools.
So what do the sources suggest?
Well, the theory that keeps coming up is that these structures point to a pre-flood origin, that they were built by a civilization before the Great Flood described in many traditions.
Which would directly contradict the official story that the Inca built them all.
It would. And what's really fascinating is there's this historical account. Comes from a priest who was with the Spanish conquistadors. He actually wrote down what the Inca told the Spanish.
And what did they say?
They said they didn't build those megalithic parts. They said those sites were built by giants who were there long before the Inca arrived.
The Inca themselves said that. Wow. Okay, so pre-flood giants. Building structures we can't replicate today, that implies a very different kind of past.
A very different level of technology, or maybe ability, yeah. And this isn't just Peru. The sources also point to Sardinia.
Sardinia, what's there?
These structures clipped Nuraghi towers, thousands of them. One source estimated maybe 30,000 across the island.
30,000, what are they?
They're often described as veritable tombs of giants, but there's more. Inside some, there's supposedly a chamber of incubation.
Chamber of incubation, what for?
The story goes that the ancient Sardinians, who some sources believe were descendants of Atlantis, interestingly, would lie down in these chambers. And the suggestion is they were trying to make some kind of telepathic connection with giants, who were maybe in suspended animation or stasis deep below ground.
Giants in suspended animation.
Like sleeping.
Or some kind of deep hibernation, yeah.
Yeah.
And through this connection, the Sardinians would receive visions or knowledge?
That is wild. Telepathic links to sleeping giants.
It's out there, yeah.
Yeah.
And adding another layer of weirdness, one source mentions a sighting contemporary, like recent, of Vatican helicopter, observing ongoing giant digs in Sardinia.
A Vatican helicopter. Why would they be interested? That's peculiar.
It raises questions, doesn't it?
Definitely. So this brings us back to that idea of different eras, maybe different technologies. You mentioned pre-flood versus post-flood.
Right. There seems to be a distinct difference in building styles presented in the sources. Pre-flood, you get these impossible megaliths. Post-flood, things change.
How so?
Well, think about the Tower of Babel story in Genesis. The sources highlight a specific detail there. It says the people built with brick instead of stone. So not the massive, precisely cut stones anymore. Brick.
Exactly. It suggests a significant loss of that advanced knowledge or technology after whatever catastrophe happened, the flood, in this narrative. The later builders just couldn't do what the earlier ones could. They had to use simpler materials, simpler techniques.
Okay, so we have modern accounts of giants, ancient structures attributed to them, hints of lost technology. If this stuff is real, or even if there's compelling evidence for it, why isn't it common knowledge? Why is it so hidden?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the sources argue strongly that it's deliberately hidden. There's been an active effort at obfuscation, at suppression.
Can you give an example of that? How would that even work?
Sure. Take the story of Ralph Glidden, an archaeologist, maybe a bit primitive by today's standards, but he worked on Catalina Island off California.
Okay. What did he find?
He excavated numerous skeletons, including one that was reportedly 9 feet tall. And crucially, he photographed it in situ, meaning right there in the ground as it was found. He's standing next to it in the photo for scale.
A 9-foot skeleton, photographed in place. That sounds like pretty solid evidence.
You'd think so. That photo was apparently displayed for a time, but later it was cropped. The giant skeleton part was cut out of the picture that was circulated.
They just edited it out.
Seems that way. And Glidden himself was largely discredited, painted as unreliable. It fits a pattern the sources describe.
What pattern is that?
The pattern of major institutions, like the Smithsonian is often mentioned, allegedly collecting these anomalous finds, giant bones, elongated skulls, things like that, and then they just disappear.
Disappear how?
Swallowed up, as one source puts it. Sometimes, literally, there are accounts of barge loads of bones being conveniently lost at sea during a storm.
Lost at sea. Seriously, that sounds convenient.
Extremely convenient. And it's worth noting, Catalina Island also yielded other finds mentioned in the source's elongated skulls and remains with 6 fingers.
6 fingers again. Okay, that detail keeps popping up. That's like a marker.
It really is. And that connects to another famous mystery the sources re-examine, the Roswell incident.
Roswell. The supposed UFO crash in 1947. How does that connect to giants?
Through a deathbed confession, apparently. Our sources cite an account from a Colonel Hill, who was reportedly a WWII OSS interrogator, that's the Office of Strategic Services, forerunner to the CIA.
And what did he confess?
He stated, pretty unequivocally, according to the source, that Roswell was all true, not a weather balloon. Standard stuff so far, maybe.
Right.
But he claimed he was there. He saw the bodies recovered from the crash.
Okay, now that's interesting. What did he say they looked like?
He described one as small, under 5 feet tall, wearing a gray jumpsuit, big head, black eyes, typical gray alien description in some ways. But Colonel Hill specifically noted it had 6 fingers.
Wait, 6 fingers on the Roswell being?
That's what the confession alleges, 6 fingers.
Just like the Kandahar giant, just like the remains from Catalina Island.
Exactly. That's the convergence that the sources find so striking. You've got this massive 15-foot giant in Afghanistan, ancient human-like remains from an island, and a supposed extraterrestrial from a crash site, all sharing this distinct anatomical feature.
That's mind-blowing. What did the sources suggest that connection means? Are they related? Or are they the same kind of being?
The sources propose that this consistent detail points towards a shared, non-human origin. It hints that these aren't necessarily separate phenomena, giants, aliens, but maybe different manifestations of something other. Something connected by a common lineage, or perhaps even a common design that falls outside our standard biological categories.
A shared non-human origin. Wow, okay, so this is all connected. Ancient giants, modern encounters, crashed ETs, maybe even suppressed archaeology. What does it mean for us, like, right now? How does this ancient weirdness connect to today?
Well, the sources draw some pretty direct lines to modern science and current events. For instance, they talk about things like the creation of pig-human chimeras in labs today.
Right, I've heard about that research. Creating organisms with cells from different species.
Exactly. And the sources connect this directly back to concepts found in ancient texts, like the Book of Enoch.
Which says what?
It describes fallen angels sinning against the animal kingdom by mixing species, creating monstrous hybrids of the chimeras. Think about Greek myths. Centaurs, minotaurs, sphinxes.
So the idea is what we're doing now with genetic engineering, maybe it's echoing something that happened long ago.
That's the parallel the sources draw. They even mention a really bizarre, unvetted modern account again, take it cautiously, of someone claiming to have seen a family of centaurs living secretly in the Four Corners area of the U.S.
The centaur family. Okay, that's really out there.
It is, but it fits this theme the sources explore. The mixing of species, the modification of life itself. They bring up modern terms like geneticide, wiping out specific genetic lines, and xenogenesis.
Xenogenesis, what's that?
Basically adding a third genetic strain to the human genome, something beyond just mixing 2 species. And technologies like CRISPR, which let us edit DNA with incredible precision. Well, they make these ancient ideas seem disturbingly possible now.
It's like ancient myths and prophecies are suddenly bumping up against cutting-edge science.
That's exactly the convergence the sources point to, and it doesn't stop there. Think about Antarctica.
Antarctica, what's the connection?
Well, the sources highlight all the recent high-level activity down there. You've got this who's who of world leaders, religious figures flying in, often preceded by, like, major security teams sweeping the area.
Yeah, I remember hearing about visits from people like John Kerry, Patriarch Carol. It seemed unusual. What are the theories?
They're all over the place. Lost ancient civilizations under the ice, maybe alien incubation sites. Some sources even talk about secret treaties made with whoever lives down there after World War II.
After WWII. Related to the Nazis.
Possibly related to events like Operation High Jump in 1947, where a U.S. naval fleet supposedly got its butt kicked by highly advanced flying saucers based in Antarctica.
Right, Admiral Byrd's expedition. There are strange stories around that.
And Bird's own diary, though its authenticity is debated, supposedly describes flying into a hollow Earth entrance near the pole and encountering flying machines that could go from pole to pole in minutes.
Hollow Earth, flying saucers, secret treaties. It sounds like sci-fi, but people are pointing to actual events and visits.
It's a nexus of high strangeness, for sure, which leads to the next big question the sources raise. Are the giants coming back?
Coming back. From where? From stasis underground.
That's one idea. The sources bring up ancient prophecies. Aristotle apparently wrote about giants being kept in suspended animation. And a passage in Isaiah 13 from the Septuagint translation speaks of giants coming at the end of history, like a destroying army.
A destroying army of giants.
Yeah.
That's a chilling thought.
And here's a really provocative, speculative theory from some sources. They wonder about the plutonium leaking from the Fukushima disaster.
Fukushima? The nuclear plant in Japan. How does that connect?
Well, plutonium has an incredibly long half-life, right? Like 27,000 years. The theory posits that this leaking radiation seeping into the Earth could potentially affect any beings in stasis.
Affect them how?
It could act almost like a trigger, causing the Earth to vomit up the giants, as one source dramatically put it, basically waking them up, alive.
Radiation waking up sleeping giants. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a heavy concept.
It's definitely out there. But what's compelling when you step back is how all these different threads, military accounts, ancient myths, archaeology, even modern science and geopolitics seem to converge.
It's the convergence that's powerful, isn't it? All these independent lines of research, these eyewitness stories. The sources we looked at have really tried to cross-corroborate them.
They have, and the central argument that emerges, the framework that seems to connect most of these dots according to these experts, is actually the biblical prophetic narrative.
How so?
It centers on concepts like fallen angels, their offspring with humans known as the Nephilim in some texts, and the idea of fallen angel technology, advanced knowledge given to humanity that was perhaps forbidden or misused.
So that narrative provides a lens to understand the giants, the lost tech, maybe even the aliens.
That's the argument presented, that this ancient story offers the most coherent explanation for this whole hidden history and the strange phenomena we're seeing today.
And placing it in a broader context, what does that suggest about the times we're living in?
The sources suggest we might be in what they call a cosmic regime change, a period similar to the days of Noah, described in the Bible, a time of great upheaval, uncertainty, and maybe the unveiling of things long hidden.
Which implies challenges ahead.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
The narrative speaks of a coming great deception, enabled by all signs and lying wonders, powerful illusions.
So being able to tell what's real from what's fake becomes incredibly important.
Absolutely critical. Discernment, in a world flooded with information, disinformation, and what some sources bluntly call mind rape through media control. Knowing how to sift through it, how to find truth. That's paramount.
So we really encourage you, as you listen to this, as you process this information, engage with it critically, ask hard questions, seek out truth for yourself, and maybe pray for wisdom and clarity. It's a lot to take in.
It really is. We've covered a lot of ground, journeyed through these hidden histories, looked at these really compelling, sometimes disturbing eyewitness accounts of giants. We've delved into the mysteries of the megaliths.
And we've seen how these patterns, these threads of deception and maybe forbidden knowledge, seem to connect right into our modern world, from genetics labs to Antarctica.
So the final thought we want to leave you with, based on everything we've explored in these sources, is this.
If, and it's a big if, but if these sources are onto something, if beings with extraordinary abilities, with ancient origins, are maybe poised to reemerge.
And if knowledge of their existence, their history, has been deliberately hidden for centuries, systematically suppressed.
Then what does that mean? What are the implications for how we understand our past, our present, and maybe even our ultimate future?
This deep dive really invites you to consider what's truly at stake in this unfolding story. And maybe more importantly, how will you find your way? How will you discern truth as these hidden realities potentially continue to surface?